What's going on, Pilgrim? It's Matty Mills, and today I want to talk to you about the importance of being polarizing in your marketing and just in general on your journey to becoming the attractive character. So when I was first getting in this marketing stuff and when I was really learning copywriting, someone gave me this book by this dude, Blair Warren, and he has something called One Sentence Persuasion. And One Sentence Persuasion is essentially 27 words that are probably the most important things that you need to know about marketing and actually copywriting in general. So I'll give you the quick gist of One Sentence Persuasion. So One Sentence Persuasion is essentially people will do anyone for someone who encourages their dreams, justifies their failures, allays their fears, confirms their suspicions, and helps them throw rocks at their enemies. So with being polarizing in your marketing, I really want to talk about that last thing, right? Throwing rocks at your enemies and how important this is, right? So if you can think of like anyone out there, right? Let's use Donald Trump as an example, all right? And I'm sure I just triggered a ton of people, and now you're probably like, oh my God, Matty, you're like a big Trumper guy. How dare you? And dude, I don't care at all. Like, I don't care at all about politicians. I'm not like conservative or liberal or Republican or Democrat. I don't really take sides. I'm kind of like outside the system and I'm really doing my own thing. So let's get that out of the way. But I want to use the example of Trump, okay? So Trump won because he was so polarizing with his messaging, right? But by being polarizing, right, if you look at it, in some cases he says stuff and he's going to have people that absolutely hate him, right? And I call these people with Trump derangement syndrome. And then you have the people who absolutely love Trump and who are like diehards of him, which I call people who have Trump devotion syndrome, all right? So if you look at that, right, you have two sides, right? You have Trump derangement syndrome and you have Trump devotion syndrome. You have kind of like the negative side and you have the positive side, right? This is how polarity works, right? You have the negative and you have the positive side, right? Are you with me so far? And it's like that, right? So what you will want to essentially do is you want to go out there, and a lot of people make the mistake, right? Like they go out there and they try and convince people who are these diehard Trumpers, right? They're like, no, Trump is bad. And at the same time, these people out there who go, no, Trump isn't that bad, he's good. And it's like, dude, like, I just want to go out there and find the people who actually already hate something and pull them towards my thing. It's like, hey, you hate Trump? Yeah, me too, man. Hey, I got a new solution for you, right? I got a new hope for you. And those people are actually going to listen to you. But to be honest, man, those people who are diehards of something they already like their problem is solved. It's so hard to convince those people that essentially you have a better solution for them. So I would honestly just focus on the people who already hate those things and help them throw rocks at their enemies and then bring them over to your cause. All right. So with anything in life though, right, this follows one of the most important storylines that I've seen in all sorts of movies and really just a lot of books that I've read over the years, some of my favorite books. It's like, if you look at polarity, there's always kind of two sides of everything, right? You have good and evil, you have dark and light, you have like, I don't know, white and black. If you're a Pink Floyd fan, for example, I know one of their songs is Us and Them, and they basically just talk about throughout the whole song, you know, they show you how there's two sides of everything, right? It's kind of like this universal truth that there's generally a dichotomy and kind of two forces in everything. If you look at any kind of war or battle throughout history, the most famous wars, there's generally kind of like two sides, right? You could break it down into good and evil depending on what side that you're on, but it's essentially just a matter of like, okay, like how can I be polarizing here, right? How can I have a different opinion than other people, all right? Now I'll give you a quick trick with your polarity, okay? So this is something I picked up from Russell Brunson, and it's called the prolific index, because I think part of being polarizing is being prolific, right? Now, when you do have an idea in whatever niche that you're in, sure, you know, you can have those kind of mainstream ideas, right? But then you can also have those kind of extremely crazy ideas, okay? But if you want to be prolific, you can't be too mainstream and you can't be too crazy, right? You have to kind of find that sweet spot in the middle. And again, that's really where you see these thought leaders start out, right? They have a different opinion that's kind of a little bit outside of the norm, but at the same time, it's not necessarily too crazy where that it's going to dissuade so many people from actually engaging with that idea. It's kind of like, you know, just a little bit outside the mainstream, but not too crazy. That's the sweet spot. So when you kind of come up with ideas, right? I mean, I'll give you a great example. So I remember when I first heard about like intermittent fasting, okay? And it's like, hey, if you don't eat for a long time, you'll naturally lose weight. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like that makes sense. But when I would tell other people about intermittent fasting, they're like, no. Mainstream media and growing up from school and the government taught me that I need to eat like 3 meals per day. I need to wake up and eat breakfast, and then at lunch I need to have a meal, and then at dinner I'm going to have a meal. And I'm like, okay, but like that may work to a certain extent, but again, this isn't like full-blown fasting, right? This isn't those people who gaze into the sun and think that they can get energy from just staring into the sun. This isn't that whatsoever, right? Like intermittent fasting, if you think about it, it's, you know, you're not completely fasting for extended period of times. It's just like, you wake up, you don't eat the entire day, you just basically fend off, and then when you're ready to actually break your fast, then you eat a meal. Like that's essentially just what intermittent fasting is, and there's different kinds of it, right? But again, if you tell this to people in the mainstream, they're going to be like, that sounds crazy, right? I know one big thing right now is like they had this big Bitcoin conference in Miami over the past few days, and whenever you kind of talk to people about cryptocurrency, right, I don't try and sell people on it ever, but if I bring it up with people, they, in a lot of cases, if they've kind of gone with the mainstream and they've grown up just because of a lot of social conditioning, it's hard to actually get them to understand and even be open-minded to understanding what cryptocurrency is, and let alone Bitcoin. It's just too far outside of their reality, right? But on the flip side, right, if you're in the cryptocurrency space, you know, there's these like Bitcoin maximalists who will do anything in their mind to defend Bitcoin, right? If you bring up a negative point about it, they're going to essentially lie in some cases and actually figure out a way to rationalize like why that's actually a benefit of Bitcoin, for example, right? So again, with your marketing, you don't want to be too completely crazy, but you don't want to be inside what the mainstream is, right? You want to kind of find that sweet spot. And what you want to do is, like I said, you really want to find kind of the false beliefs that are within that, try and get those people who are already kind of hating on that thing and pull them over to your side, right? I'm sure there's a lot of people, like I said, right, where they're like, you know what, I've been eating 3 meals a day for my entire life, and it's like, man, like, why am I so fat? And it's like, well, you know, it's probably because you're eating those 3 meals a day, right? But I have this thing, very easy to do, called intermittent fasting. All you need to do is just maybe skip the first meal of the day, maybe skip 2 of the meals, just eat 1 meal per day, and you'll essentially be good to go. But again, if I were to go into the mainstream and talk about that idea, it's going to be extremely hard to persuade people, right? I have to kind of already find those people who are like, man, what the mainstream is talking about isn't working whatsoever. And then I have to kind of, again, have a new option for them and be like, hey, is this you? It's so much easier to fish those people out who kind of are already kind of hating that thing. I love it with software. Like, it's so easy in some cases. Like, I remember with me, there's this email service that I used to use called Mailchimp. All right, it's actually one of the most popular autoresponders in email marketing send software that you can actually use. But Mailchimp did something to me that really irked me a few years back and basically just completely took my list. And I understand that, you know, they had to do that. They never gave me a reason why they did that. So I was done with them. And then people were like, oh, try out this piece of software. And then, dude, I tried out ActiveCampaign, which is the software that I've used for a couple of years now, and maybe probably a little bit more. And man, I am such a diehard. It would be so hard for someone to get me to use a different piece of email software because I know how to do it. And it's the same thing with a lot of software, right? A lot of people, they try out to build websites, they try out one piece of software, they absolutely hate it. So that's why these ads work so well, right? They're like, hey, do you hate this piece of software? And those people who are like, yes, I do hate that piece of software. You just basically go to those people. It's like, yeah, well, you know what? We have a better version of that software. Do you want to try it out? It's like, yeah, cool. Hey, here's a free 14-day trial, right? I've seen so many successful pieces of software actually be built just by, again, focusing on the people who are already in that niche but are using other pieces of software. They hate that piece of software. So again, you come to them, we're like, you don't like that, use ours, boom, very easy to think. And again, if your software is just naturally better to use, if you have better customer service, you're gonna do a lot better. But again, it's that polarity, right? It's like you have to kind of take a side and then again, throw rocks at your enemies. And again, you're not going to be able to pick everyone else, right? People make the big mistake with marketing that, oh, I'm just going to create this big net and I'm going to try and market to absolutely everyone. That's not what marketing is. Marketing is about making a very small list of people, right? In a very small sub-niche, finding out what the problem is that those people have, and then again, offering those people a very specific solution, right? Biggest thing that I see with people whenever they're coming up with their dream customer, their avatar, what they generally like to focus on is they like to focus on the demographics too, right? It's like, okay, I'm just going to try and like sell to women in this specific age range and that live in this specific location. I'm like, yeah, that's part of it. That's part of it, but you're not focusing on the psychographics, right? Like I used the example of Trump before, right? If I want to sell to people, right, I need to know specifically if they like or they hate Trump, right? Because I can take that one idea and put that in my sales letter, right? I can sell, to be honest, to Christian conservative people because I've read the Bible and I know it very well. And I know that for the most part, people who follow Trump, they're probably Christians. I also know that they're probably conservatives too, right? So if I write stuff that's pro-Christian and pro-conservative, man, it's going to be a lot easier for me to market to those people than the people, again, who don't like Trump, who hate Christianity, who are more liberal with their belief patterns, right? So again, when I'm writing my copy, I know who that person is, right? I know what their false beliefs are. I know who their enemies are. And again, I'm going to throw rocks at their enemies and they're going to be like, yeah, this guy gets it, right? He's just like me. He helped me throw rocks at my enemies, right? He helped me confirm my suspicions and he helped me allay my fears, right? And he encouraged my dreams. When you kind of hit those five things off, it's great. But honestly, you could just focus on throwing rocks at the enemies and get so many people. And that's really what being polarizing is, right? It's, again, taking a side that's opposite someone and, again, throwing rocks at those people. And this is part of attraction marketing, right? And this is why I talk about the attractive character, right? To become the attractive character, right? Because being attractive isn't necessarily being charismatic or being a pretty or a beautiful person. That has absolutely nothing to do with it. For the most part, it's saying some controversial ideas that, again, are very polarizing. And you're going to get a lot of people that aren't going to like you, right? You're going to get those people who absolutely despise you. But then again, dude, you're going to get those people who absolutely love what you had to say. And it's so much easier to sell those people. Because again, if you kind of join them in their mind where they're already having their conversation and then continue it a little bit, they're going to be like, oh, this guy understands me, right? He can almost read my mind. How does he know so much about me? And for me, to be honest, right, because I've done so much research over the years on how to actually come up with your dream customer profile and your avatar, it's easier for me to do, right? But again, I get so specific with this stuff so that when I actually go out there and I write my copy, whether it's a headline or a sales letter, and I'm going to build a webinar or a challenge funnel or a summit, whatever it is, I understand that avatar so much, but more importantly, I understand who their enemy is and I help them throw rocks at their enemies. And that's really what being polarizing is. And again, they're going to see you as the attractive character. You're going to push away a lot of people, but you're still going to get a lot of people that actually come to you, all right? So I really hope you enjoyed this video. Hope that made a lot more sense to you. Hope you're actually understanding more about the attractive character and why you need to become it, and hope this is really helping you along your journey to becoming the attractive character. If you did like this video, I want you to hit that like button. I want you to leave a comment below. And if you're liking these videos in general, consider subscribing to this channel and hitting that bell notification so that way you're notified every single time a new video drops. On that point, it's a very hot day and I'm going to go out and have a little bike ride and probably a little bit of bubbly water and after I sweat my buns off. And yeah, have yourself a best day and be grateful.